It's far easier to waste your life than you might think. I'll be 55 this year. If I knew in my 20s what I know now in my 50s, I would have become the person I am today back in my 30s. What I'm going to tell you now are some bitter truths. Truths that if someone had told me them when I was much younger, I would have gotten to where I am now decades ago. Success, failure, happiness, heartache, they often come down to the choices we make or don't make. Now, obviously, you can't control everything in life. There will be circumstances you simply can't predict. But what's less obvious is the tremendous danger of just going with the flow. I didn't think enough about the things I actually have control over in my life. I left too much to chance. There was too much living in the moment rather than creating my own moments. There were opportunities I should have grabbed. I spent so much time when I was younger completely unprepared. I wasn't ready for things that came along. I was always just along for the ride instead of being in the driver's seat. And that kind of mindset has serious consequences. Pain, suffering, disappointment. These were side effects of my own failures, mistakes, and poor discipline. I worked for decades, way too long, at a job in TV journalism that I once loved but grew to hate because it swallowed my life whole. I left that job to start my own business, creating documentary films, but I suffered in the beginning because of all I didn't know about running a business. I'm going to share with you what I learned the hard way along the way, and I think it can really help all sorts of people, whether you're young or not so young, because even if our ambitions are different, we all more or less want the same things. We want fulfillment in life, we want to be happy, we want to be successful. So here are 5 epiphanies that helped me to completely rewrite my entire story. This is one of the most important discoveries I made. The universe isn't against you. Now, for a long time, I convinced myself that the universe, cosmic forces, were somehow aligned against me. The deck is stacked, the game is rigged, people are out to get me. Well, that was all bullshit. Yes, life is unfair, but I was surrounded by folks who had it a lot harder than I did, and they pushed and fought their way through struggles and 1,000 closed doors to create the life they wanted for themselves. The minute I stopped seeing the universe as some malevolent force gunning for me, that's when I stopped seeing shadows and chasing conspiracies, and I was able to concentrate on building the kind of life for myself, being the kind of person that I wanted to be so that I could accomplish what I set out to do. The next big shift was this. I stopped obsessing about who I am not, and I leaned into who I am. It's too easy to get caught up in the comparison game. I used to measure myself against friends who were more accomplished academically and professionally. I thought, I don't have the talent and abilities they do, so it's not realistic to have the same expectations of life that they have. The brain is an incredibly complex computer processing information in ways that we can't even begin to understand. But at the same time, it is also a very simple instrument. So when I spent a lot of my time focusing on who I am not, what I can't do, and what others can do, and what I'm unable to match them in, then that's what my brain processed, and that is what limited me. But then when I started thinking more about what my talents are, what my abilities are, then that allowed me to invest the mental energy in sharpening those abilities, those talents, those skills. And that's what allowed me to achieve what I did, even if it was a lot later than I would have liked. I think too many people waste their lives watching the years go by, living in awe of other people rather than building on their own talents and being the star of their own show. When I started to audit my abilities and skills, then that allowed me to sharpen my tools, which in turn led to better income and a better quality of life. Now, this one might be unpopular. All those lost weekends add up fast. Sometimes the best thing you can do is absolutely nothing. When I was much younger and I worked as a broadcast journalist, that was an incredibly demanding job. My weeks were usually very hard, very tough. So on the weekends, I'd party even harder. I'd party on Friday night, then Saturday night, I'd party even harder. And on Sunday, I would sleep like the dead for the entire day. You see, when I was young, I felt, well, I have this vast expanse of time ahead of me. I knew I wasn't where I wanted to be. I wasn't doing what I really felt as though I was meant to be doing, but I always thought that there'd be more than enough time to get there. One day I woke up and more than 20 years had gone by. The 1980s were as distant as the 50s. Even people in their 40s and 50s like to say, there is still time, don't worry. And that's true, but time does run out. It does. So now I don't allow a single day to go by without doing something that moves me along the path of achieving what I really want out of this life. It could be writing another blog post, writing something for Substack, doing a bit of editing on a video that I have that I want to release soon, or even getting more work done on a book. Not a single day passes without me putting a few hours in to the future. Success doesn't happen overnight. It demands discipline, but discipline is a muscle and you have to train it every day. I've never been a naturally disciplined person. Making my bed, setting timetables for getting my work done, keeping track of my progress. I'm more creative than organized. I could spend hours writing an article or working on a video, and that time would pass like minutes. Doing up a work schedule that actually only takes half an hour feels like years in a gulag. I learned that I had to impose discipline on my life to get what I wanted. I had to be like a tyrant, cracking the whip behind my own ass, getting up early every morning, completing at least one important task every single day, getting exercise, eating right. And you know what the funny thing is? Imposing that rigid, almost dictatorial discipline in my life allowed me to be more spontaneous because I was more productive. I could just take a day, any day out of the week and go to the beach. I could hang out with my friends when I want to because I just feel like it and I don't want to work that particular day. That's what imposing rigid discipline did for me. It helped me to build the kind of lifestyle I always wanted. Yes, I know discipline isn't exactly the sexiest of subjects, but it allows me to roll very nicely into my fifth major life-changing lesson. The success that you're seeing others having around you, well, that's buried in the very boring details. Look, I'm a creative person. I'd much rather be spending my time shooting for my documentary films or writing Substacks, columns for my books. All of these things, these are my passions, and obviously it's easier to do things that you're in love with than doing the hard stuff. And that's just it. In order for me to make money out of my talents, I had to learn the boring stuff and I had to make my peace with it. Marketing, networking, video strategy, accounting, well, at least basic accounting. I'm no whiz in that department. But these are all of the things that allowed me to put my work in front of audiences and to attract the kind of income I need to be able to continue living out my passions. And that's where the success is buried in the boring details. You have to really do the things that you don't want to do so that you can do the things that you want to do. The life revelations I shared with you, I wish I'd learned them earlier. When I did, well, they transformed my life. Whether you're young or not so young, there are always changes or little tweaks that you can make to really get you to where you want to be, to help you to move along to the destination that you've always imagined in your mind. Tell me what you did in the comments below, because I can always add to my list.